Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to the first subscription tasting video of 2024. Welcome. And welcome to all the new subscribers. I know there has been a lot of gifts given away, our gift subscription, so we have a lot of new subscribers this year, which is fantastic. And today I'm going to share the first 4 coffees that we're going to send out of 2024. I've chosen some really nice coffees this time because we have such many new subscribers, and I really want you to kind of explore what kind of coffees we have to offer in our assortment. So normally the subscription works like this. We send out the coffee that I choose every first Wednesday of the month. And normally I will choose coffees, either 3 coffees from the same farm, but they are different varieties or different pickings or something like that. Or it can be 3 different coffees from different countries, whatever I feel like. And normally I pick coffees that we don't have huge amounts of, because I actually, when I buy coffee, I buy specifically for subscription sometimes. And that means if you're subscribing to our coffee, you get to taste coffees that is not available necessarily in our store or in our web shop. And other times we will just send out some of our classic coffees just because there's a reason why we actually buy them. So welcome everyone, and let's get started with the tasting. So the subscription works. We normally send out 3 different coffees. I've chosen 4 coffees today, and that's just because the last 2 we didn't have a lot of. And that means some of you will get 1 and some of you will get the other. But you need to subscribe to 3 bags to get the last one. So the first coffee, the first bag that we're sending out, will go out to all the subscribers. The second bag goes out to the people who subscribe to 2 bags or more. And if you subscribe to 3 bags or more, you will get to taste the third coffee. If you subscribe to 6 bags, for instance, we will try to send out 1 of each of the last coffee so that you get to taste both of them. Okay, let's get started with the first coffee. The first coffee, I think the subject of this tasting overall is, the subject word is going to be floral. So think a little bit about what kind of coffees those are. The first coffee we're sending out is a very floral coffee from Ethiopia. It's from a farm called Echemo. Echemo is, I was just there in November actually and visited Khalid Shifa, who is the farmer. It is a farm that is not too far away from the town of Agaro in the southwest of Ethiopia. So first I have to fly to Addis Ababa, then I have to fly to Jimma. And from Jimma we drive a couple of hours to Agaro. And we pass Agaro and we drive another 30 minutes, and that's where the farm is. This farm is, I think Khalid is 3rd generation coffee farmer, and the coffee trees that are planted there are mainly old coffee trees that his grandfather planted many, many years ago. And he got seeds from the nearby forest, which is called Choche, I think. So he kind of took coffee seeds from wild coffee trees planted on his farm, and those are the trees that are still there. They have never been pruned, never been cut. He farms organically, they don't fertilize, they don't spray, they only cut the weeds on the ground, and the coffee trees grow really, really tall. So when you walk on the farm, actually you walk underneath the canopy of coffee trees. So you have to actually climb the trees to pick the coffee, which is fantastic. Khalid said that this year he might do a little bit of pruning because the trees are not as productive as they used to. So normally it helps to prune the coffee trees a little bit. He's also planting a little bit more areas on the farm with new varieties, the varieties 74110 and so on. But this coffee in particular is mainly from the old trees because the new trees haven't grown up properly yet. He also plants a lot of shade, so to get the forest back on the farm. It used to be a forest there. Of course, the trees have been cut down for timber over the years, but now he's replanting shade trees, native shade trees, to give shade to the coffee. And that means in the future, better quality. Let's taste. So this coffee actually reminds me a little bit of the coffee that I grow myself in Colombia. It has a lot of kind of stone fruit flavors. By stone fruit I mean peach, nectarines, mango, that kind of stone fruit, yellow stone fruit. And in addition, you get a little bit of, or I get a little bit of this kind of floral flavors, not necessarily the kind of pungent jasmine flavor that is quite normal in Ethiopian and geisha coffees. This is a little bit more delicate, so reminds me actually when I eat coffee flowers, you get this kind of slight green but also floral flavor, which is fantastic. If you ever get the chance, you should try to eat a coffee flower. and it really mixes well with the stone fruit flavor. So this is quite delicate coffee. Some may say that it has like a tea-like body. I don't disagree. I think it's a very light-bodied coffee. It has a lot of sweetness and a lot of this stone fruit flavor, which means it's quite refreshing and yeah, very elegant coffee, I would say. Super easy to extract. I've made this as an Aeropress. I think the Aeropress really brings out kind of floral flavors, but you can also brew this on a V60, for instance. And we have a recipe for how we make V60. You can check that out on YouTube, or we can put a link below maybe. And we don't really change the ratios or anything when we brew V60. The only thing we change is the actual grind setting. So if you feel like this coffee is too kind of compact and not open, that means maybe you are grinding a little bit too fine. So try to coarsen up the grind a little bit, and then the coffee normally opens up. You get more florals. It's quite easy to extract. If you think it's too thin and doesn't taste like anything, you have to grind finer. That's kind of the key rule here. That's the brewing tip of the day. Now, we will get more coffee from Echemo in the this year. And the reason why I was there in November was to ask Khalid to start separating the pickings of the coffee. This is a mix of all the pickings he did, and it's a washed coffee, of course. We don't buy naturals from him. I think his washed coffees are the best ones. But basically he will process different batches of coffee, and then he mixed them together. And I know that we can maybe increase the quality a little bit by separating all the batches and making sure we go through them, test the quality on all of them before we mix them. Maybe there's one that is not as good as the other one, then we will remove that from the batch. So that's the kind of work that I want to do with the farmers we work with in Ethiopia. And we have just started actually, so this will be the first year we get that. But this coffee was harvested from the last harvest, so we haven't gotten to that point yet because of COVID and everything. I didn't manage to go too often, but the future looks very bright for the Echemo coffee. Cool. Now, second coffee, also floral. It's a coffee that is, I think it's the second time we have it in our roastery. And that's just because the trees were planted not long ago. So this is kind of the first proper harvest we have from these trees. We did have a little bit last year. I think the coffee last year was maybe not as expressive as I know it can be, because this is a geisha coffee. And when I say geisha, that's the variety of coffee trees that was kind of rediscovered in Panama. And one of the reasons why Panamanian coffees are so expensive, because the geisha coffee is very, very fragrant and very, very floral and like intense in flavor. This coffee is not from Panama. This is grown by Hobnil Caceres Dios in Honduras on his farm El Vikingo. He bought a new farm a couple of years ago and didn't have a name for it. And then he asked me, what should I call it? And I said, well, I'm the buyer, I'm the Viking from Norway. So he named it El Vikingo. It was just a joke, but that's the reality now. That's the name of the farm. So Hobnil normally has been growing coffee on a farm you may know quite well if you follow us, and that's Nacimiento. It's in the Santa Barbara mountain, in a kind of area of the mountain called Cielito. This farm is in a different area in the same mountain called El Sauce. And it's a small lot of land where he only planted geisha trees. And I think he planted them in 2019 or 2020. So this is kind of the first main, like big harvest from these trees. And the quality is much better this year. Now you can taste like it's floral, and yeah, let's taste it. Yes. A little bit more lemony maybe. It has some stone fruit as well, I would say. It's quite complex. And you get more of that kind of jasmine florality that is quite famous for geisha coffees. Maybe a little bit more like honey flavors. But definitely a little bit more citric than the first one. Yeah, first one more stone fruit, second one more citrus, I would say, and more like jasmine. So these geisha trees are more or less the height of myself now, around 2 meters, and they're in full production. Hobnil has actually struggled a little bit with the labor because there's a lot of migration from Honduras to the US at the moment. And in the area where they are, it's high up in the mountain, there's not a lot of people who live around there. So he's having struggles to get enough labor to pick coffee and to renovate the farms and everything. So he actually had a little bit more land in the area where he planted this geisha, but I just heard that he decided to sell some of it because he just couldn't work all the land. So instead of kind of growing, he's scaling a little bit back to be able to focus more on the farm. And of course he kept the El Vikingo farm because the geisha is actually tasting really, really nice. And that means he gets higher prices for this coffee as well. So I think some of you have tasted this geisha before because we sent out some last year, but this is kind of the first time we are able to send to all our subscribers that subscribe for 2 bags or more, and that's pretty cool. Hopefully we'll get even more in the future. So that's the geisha from El Vikingo in Honduras. The 3rd and 4th coffee are from the same farm, not in Honduras, but the 2 coffees are from one farm, Los Pirineos in El Salvador. And for those of you who have tried those coffees before, you don't think about florality normally when you taste those coffees. The coffees from Los Pirineos and Diego Barahona are normally more known for like very chocolatey flavors with a little bit of fruit. So for instance, the Pacamara we just had as our Christmas edition coffee had this kind of dark chocolate flavor with a lot of kind of red fruit, a little bit of wininess, like you can get in high quality dark chocolates. You get this slight ferment flavor that is really, really nice with the coffee. These coffees, however, are different varieties. So they are Sudan Rumé or Rumé Sudan, however you want to call it. It's a Sudanese variety and known for its very floral character. And then we have a variety that Diego calls Harar. I think the seeds came from Ethiopia, from the Harar area, but I'm not sure. They have a few trees. They used to have a few trees in their variety garden on the farm, and then the variety really produced well. The flavor was really good, so Gilberto, Diego's father, decided to plant more. And I think this is the 2nd time we are able to buy that coffee, because they just also, with these varieties, they're also just starting to produce. They were planted not long ago. Let's start with the Sudan Rumé first. And just to complicate things, if you subscribe to 3 bags or more, you will get one of these 2. And then if you subscribe to 6 bags, you will most likely get one of each, because I think we have enough for that. But let's start tasting the Sudan Rumé from Los Pirineos in El Salvador. This is not far away from Santa Barbara in Honduras, I guess 4 or 5 hour drive, but completely different climate. The farm is actually a volcano. It's very sunny and dry during the harvest, unlike in Honduras in Santa Barbara, it's a little bit more misty and cold. So very different climate for these coffees. Oh my God, this coffee is delicious, and I think it's actually Diego's favorite at the moment. It's really hard to describe the flavors. It's floral, but it's also kind of spicy, a little herbal. So think of a really kind of pungent tangerine, and I don't know what kind of flower it is, if it's jasmine or orange blossom or something like that. And then you have a little bit of this kind of baking spice, like cardamom-ish kind of flavor. Really interesting coffee and super complex. And you have a little bit of this kind of slight milk chocolatey base in the bottom, which makes this coffee like really sweet, also nice and acidic, but not too like sour or anything. And then you have this fruit and floral flavors on top of it. We had this coffee also a little bit before, I think last year. Very little of it. I think then we had like 1 batch, so 30 kilos. This year we have a little bit more than 200 kilos, so that means we can roast a little bit more. Super, super nice Sudan Rumé from Los Pirineos. And to finish off the tasting, the Harar, also from Los Pirineos, Ethiopian variety. This one has a little bit more of that flavor you think of when you say pulpy coffee. Pulpy coffee means the coffee tastes a little bit like the pulp. So when you remove the skin and the pulp from the coffee cherries, you normally just pile them up and they start to ferment a little bit. And you get a very certain smell of like really, really ripe mango and red berries. And that's the kind of flavor I get here in a very, very positive way, I have to say. It's really nice, more like red fruit, a little bit of stone fruit, mango maybe. And there is a little bit of florality there. Yeah, I would say more like hibiscus maybe, or flor de Jamaica. Yeah, that's the kind of flavors I get. Red flavors, I would say. So these are more, the first ones are more like yellow and orange. The last one is more like pink to red, I think, if you think colors when you taste flavors. Super nice coffees. I really hope you like them as much as I do, because I will cherish every moment I have with these. We don't have a lot of them. So I will make sure to drink all the leftovers after we send out the subscription. I hope you will try to taste this side by side if you subscribe to more than one coffee, because it's really nice to taste the differences between the coffees, and it's much easier to describe the flavors if you have something to compare with. We do have some videos about tasting as well, so you can check those out. But if you don't subscribe to more than one coffee, you can also just buy any other coffee in the market, set it side by side, and then taste it. And then I would maybe not recommend doing an extremely dark roast, because that will kind of ruin a little bit, but it can be like a medium or light roast coffee, either from the supermarket or from your favorite roaster, and taste it side by side, and it's much easier to pick out the flavors and to describe the flavors. And also, if you taste with another person, it makes it even more fun. So hope you enjoy them, and I hope to see you next month as well. Thank you for subscribing, thank you for following. And if you do not subscribe to our coffee yet, check out our website. There's 1 to 6 bags you can subscribe to. We ship around the world. You can stop and you can pause the subscription anytime you want. And you can upgrade and downgrade anytime you want as well. Cool, thanks for watching. See you next time.